This is Media Philosophy, exploring the deeper side of Nintendo and what I just love about Nintendo and why, after 30 years of gaming, I am still a huge Nintendo fan. And it's because of the exclusivity and I would just say their traditions. Because let's be real, the only reason people buy any sort of Nintendo console is because they know that's the only place they can get their Zelda, Mario fix, whatever. Unless you want to go sail the seven seas, but I don't think we're allowed to advocate for these in these sort of videos. So we'll just say that the only official way to play Nintendo games is through their official Nintendo licensed hardware or not. But when you look at all the other game companies, Sony's a little bit better, but Xbox, Microsoft just dropped that they are really gonna stop with the exclusives. Probably because they see the sales, they see that they're making more money off games, off Game Pass, when they're on Steam, Sony. So they're just kind of break away from that. So it's just interesting that there's no point really to even have a console anymore if you have things like the Steam Deck or the PC, except when it comes to the Nintendo. And even though I would say a lot of contemporary Nintendo games haven't really even done much for me as an adult, just having the console and having the ability to play those select few titles that are top tier makes it so worth it. Sure, I didn't really like some of the Mario sports titles like Mario Golf or Mario Tennis was super lame. Some of the Super Mario parties were a little lame. But just being able to play something like Fire Emblem Three Houses, being able to play Super Mario Odyssey. I wasn't even that big of a fan of Breath of the Wild. I guess I did complete it, but it just didn't have those Nintendo Zelda hallmarks that I look for in a Nintendo game. Because that's the second component that I love about Nintendo, is how it always builds off itself from the very beginning, from 1-1 in Super Mario Bros., whether they're recycling music, recycling sound effects, items, enemies. Mario, Nintendo in general are just the kings of expanding slowly. You don't just get from 1980 Nintendo Entertainment System with like Zelda, with just basic enemies and things like Zelda, like Octoroks and Moblins, whatever, to 2025, where those same enemies still exist, but they've either gotten a crazy amount of glow-ups, a lot of variations, and then besides the enemies that have been retained since the beginning, the number of other enemies have just multiplied. But it's so much fun. You could see so many YouTube videos. There's tons of YouTube videos out there of comparing Nintendo characters throughout the ages. Enemies, main characters, bosses, whatever. You can find so many recurring themes throughout Nintendo. So it's just kind of cool when you're an adult and you can pick up maybe like the new Super Mario Bros. And still feel like you're playing that same game again as a kid with some extra goodies to kind of make it seem like, this is how it felt like when you were a kid. Now, I know the new Super Mario Bros. And whatnot can be controversial, but I would say that it is one of the best ways to highlight what I'm talking about. Nintendo knew the formula, Nintendo knew the enemies, but they didn't just stop there. They just made sure to keep enhancing it. I guess the way I kind of look at a lot of Nintendo, the continuation of a lot of Nintendo games, is sort of like how in the Resident Evil remake, the original OG remake, which some people would say the best remake of all time, and still to this day, the shining examples of remakes. I kind of look at Nintendo games like the original or Resident Evil remake, where each Nintendo game has the core experience that the previous game has, but just like the remake of Resident Evil, they just enhance it and add just enough new stuff to keep you coming back. And you can see this in all the Super Mario titles, from Super Mario Bros. To Super Mario Bros. 3. We'll skip Super Mario Bros. 2 due to its past, but yeah, Super Mario Bros. 3 to Super Mario Bros. World. I mean, that was such a peak evolution, was from 1 to 3 to World, and they continue that with Super Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, Odyssey. They're just not afraid to experiment, except, let's of course acknowledge, the Wii U. So that's what's really cool, is when you do play a game that does even try to do something radically different, like Wind Waker, you're still going to retain some of the key components of previous games, like the Great Deku Tree, Hyrule Castle, and whatnot. I mean, that's basically Zelda's, at least, MO. Let's just tell the same story over and over again in different ways, and people eat it up. People like this repetition, and I think it's a great way for adults to really share their experiences with maybe their children, their grandchildren, because and a lot of people said this about like Breath of the Wild. I didn't personally think it was the greatest game, because I would rather have more of a Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time experience, but a lot of people viewed Breath of the Wild as sort of that original Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Entertainment System experience, where that original Zelda didn't really tell you what to do, where to go, but it just kind of let you wander and explore, and that's what Breath of the Wild did, and I think that's what a lot of people in Nintendo were just trying to emulate, was that kind of classic exploration Zelda feel. And I know I'm talking a lot about Zelda and Mario. Unfortunately, those are probably the Nintendo series I know the best, and that are still probably ongoing the most, because I know like Donkey Kong is sort of in like a weird limbo place. I mean, we haven't had a new Star Fox in forever. Yeah, I just looked at all my games. I feel like I just have Zelda and Mario games that are officially licensed by Nintendo, and then some other ones like Fire Emblem, Luigi's Mansion, Paper Mario. I don't think those examples are as good as something like, even like Metroid, I feel like, is trying to go back to its roots again with like Metroid Dread. Some people probably don't like it, that it's not as much of a Metroidvania experience as more of a combat-focused exploration game maybe, but again, it's still trying to invoke some of those same feelings. Now, I guess they can go too far in this direction sometimes. I know that the Pokemon Company is technically a separate entity, but Nintendo owns like enough of the shares that I would say it's basically a part of Nintendo. So Game Freak, notorious for going a little bit too far in this direction, because they really do just kind of copy and paste the same game over and over again. Start with your you choose from 3 starters, you go out, get 8 badges, have a rival, stop whatever gang, fight the Elite Four, become a Pokemon Master, more or less. There's some existential crisis because there's some legendary god Pokemon trying to destroy the world. But other than that, that's basically, what each Pokemon game is, where I don't think Nintendo games really copy and paste the same format. That's not what I'm talking about that I really admire about Nintendo. I'm talking more about reusing the same enemies, reusing the same musical scores, the same sound effects, that just keep this common thread throughout time. I think the coin grab sound effect from Mario is probably one of the most iconic sound effects out there. I mean, I would say almost every single one of Nintendo's sound effects are so iconic because they've just used it so many times. Just the sound of like maybe Mario growing, the score for Mario running with the star. Again, they could have changed a lot of these themes, updated them many times, and I guess they have updated them. They've modernized them, but if anything, that's only doing them more of a service. Like, I love hearing all the different renditions of maybe Kakariko Village from The Legend of Zelda, from whether it's Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past, or Breath of the Wild. There's just so many different ways that you can play this same song through like orchestra arrangements, more retro 16-bit sounding. It's just so great that you can just relive these same experiences over and over again, but in new ways that don't make them feel dull, sort of like how Pokemon makes them feel dull. I'm super excited to see what Nintendo has up their sleeves once the Switch 2 comes out. A lot of people are thinking something like Mario Maker or Mario Paint is going to make a comeback because there might be some sort of mouse function. But I'm just really excited to see how Nintendo carries on the tradition of their games with the Switch 2. Are they going to go back to more of the linear format of The Legend of Zeldas? How are they going to continue to elevate Mario? Are they going to expand on that open world collectathon feeling, or are they going to sort of limit it, take a step back with the Switch 2, as we saw with the Wii and the Wii U with Mario Galaxy 1 and 2? People would say Mario Galaxy 2 was the superior of the two Mario Galaxies. So if Nintendo does decide to go with a Super Mario Odyssey 2, they might do a fantastic job. Now, in my heart of hearts, I would love to have something new, a new experience. I love Cappy, I love the capture method, but I don't want Nintendo to get rusty when it comes to these really cool ideas. Then again, they probably just scratched the surface with the capture mechanic, and I can still play Mario Odyssey to this day after so many playthroughs. I've never 100%ed it. I never felt the need to. But either way, even if I'm not falling in love with every single Nintendo game, I know they're not meant for me. I'm an adult. They're meant for children. But I can't help to find those gems within those children games and just cherish them. And I love collecting them, so when my nieces, nephews come over, I can share with them something that used to bring me such joy and create this bond and create these memories. And sure, maybe playing video games aren't the most productive way to be spending time with family members, but in 2025, you gotta take what you can get. This is Media Philosophy, exploring the deeper side of entertainment.